Have you ever dreamed something that felt too real to be just a dream? The kind of dream that leaves a shadow behind, long after you've opened your eyes? Maybe you've woken up in the middle of the night, your heart pounding, your breath sharp, and for a moment, you could swear someone or something was calling your name. From where? You couldn't tell, but it felt close, too close. If that's ever happened to you, then listen carefully, because what you're about to hear isn't just another story. It's not fiction meant to scare you. It's a revelation, one that's been buried, silenced, and forgotten. Until now. And tonight, for a reason you may not yet understand, you're the one meant to hear it. Nothing in this story happens by chance. Every moment, every whisper, every dream, there's a thread connecting them all. Maybe even to you. Because when you learn what Pablo saw, you might start wondering about your own dreams. Have they been trying to warn you too? Pablo is 5 years old, an ordinary child, the kind who falls asleep clutching a stuffed toy and asking impossible questions right before drifting off. But that night, something changes. The air in his room shifts, almost imperceptibly at first. A faint warmth spreads through the darkness, like the glow of a candle that doesn't exist. Then comes the hum. Soft, distant, not from the outside world, but from deep within his chest. His body lies still, his breathing steady, but his mind is being pulled somewhere else, somewhere far beyond his room, and yet strangely familiar. He doesn't know how, but he feels that the dream is not his own. The air thickens, turning into something alive, something watchful. Before him stretches a sky of smoke and shadow, moving like ink across water. And from that darkness, a figure emerges. It's not human, not in the way you and I are. It shines, yet it doesn't burn. Its voice isn't heard, it's felt. A vibration inside the soul. Pablo doesn't need to ask who it is. Somehow he knows. It's Jesus, not the gentle figure from storybooks or church windows, but a presence that feels eternal, vast, powerful, and unbearably kind all at once. Jesus looks at him. His lips don't move, but his words echo within the child's mind. "Pablo," he says, "listen to my final warning. A dark time is coming, but I will show you where to hide." The words hang in the air, heavy and electric. And then the dream shifts. The sky above Pablo splits in two, like fabric being torn by unseen hands. A shadow, colossal, ancient, descends, swallowing the horizon. Something is coming, something that doesn't belong to this world. Pablo wants to run, but he has no feet. He tries to scream, but he has no mouth. He's trapped in the silence of his own vision, weightless, trembling, surrounded by something he doesn't understand. Yet deep down, he knows this is not imagination. This is not a story. It's a message, a warning sent through the thin veil between worlds. His child's heart, pure and untouched by disbelief, recognizes the truth. What he's witnessing is real. He wakes up with a gasp. His chest rises and falls rapidly. The room is cold now, the warmth gone. His skin glistens with sweat, but it's not fever. It's fear in something else. Awareness. The silence around him feels too deep, too alive. He sits up, hugging his knees, eyes wide open. The dream lingers inside him, not as a memory, but as a living seed. Something has been planted in him, something waiting to unfold. Why him? Why a 5-year-old boy and not a prophet? What does hide mean? Hide from what? The questions burn in his mind, and though he doesn't have the words to ask them, his soul already knows they will matter. This is just the beginning, a beginning that will shake everything he knows about the world. Because what comes next is more than a dream. It's the first sign, the start of what Jesus called the tribulation. A storm is rising, not of rain or fire, but of spirit. A countdown has begun, and almost no one can hear it. Only a few are awakening. Less than 5%, Jesus had said. The rest still asleep. Those who awaken must run. But where? To the mountain, he said. Not just any mountain, the right one. But which is it? Would you know where to go if the warning came for you? Would you recognize the signs if they appeared before your very eyes? And if they already have, would you even notice? Have you ever had a dream so vivid, so impossibly real, that when you opened your eyes, you weren't sure if you'd actually lived it? What if that dream wasn't just a fragment of your imagination? What if it was a message prophetic, deliberate, sent from somewhere far beyond this world? Pablo was only 5 years old when the second vision came. It was late October in a small village called San Marcos de la Sierra, nestled among the quiet hills of southern Spain. A storm had passed hours earlier, leaving the night heavy and electric. The air still smelled of wet earth. Thunder rolled faintly in the distance, as if reluctant to leave. His mother had tucked him in, kissed his forehead, and left a dim light burning beside his bed. But at precisely 3:17 a.m., and yes, that time would remain burned into the digital clock, beside him Pablo began to stir, not because of a nightmare, because the dream that was about to unfold wasn't his own. It was sent with intent. And this time, the message would be clearer and far more terrifying. In the dream, Pablo was no longer in his room. The bed, the toys, the nightlight, all gone. He was standing on a dusty hill beneath the violet skies, his tiny figure silhouetted against the horizon. Below him stretched an ancient city, bathed in golden haze. He didn't know how he knew it, but the truth settled into his heart before he could even think. This was Jerusalem, but not the Jerusalem people visit or film. No laughter, no footsteps, no. The air was still, the silence thick, almost sacred. And in the middle of that silence, standing where the temple once rose in glory, was something that didn't belong. It gleamed black beneath the sunless sky, smooth, mechanical, almost alive. A structure made of metal and shadow, modern yet monstrous, standing arrogantly in the center of the holy place, a symbol of defiance, of desecration. Pablo didn't understand what it was, but his body reacted before his mind could, his small hands trembling, his chest tightening. Every fiber in him knew that thing should not be there. Then the light shifted, and he was there again. Jesus, not distant, but right beside him. Taller than Pablo remembered, radiant yet solemn. His eyes burned not with anger, but with justice. When he spoke, his voice filled the air and the heart at once. When you see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, he said, run, Pablo. Don't look back. Don't stop. The words didn't echo. They settled, engraved themselves inside his soul. Pablo didn't understand the prophecy, not really, but he felt the weight of it, the finality. The ground beneath his feet began to tremble, soft at first, then harder, as if the earth itself recognized the violation. Somewhere, centuries away, the words of Daniel stirred again. The sky above the temple darkened, clouds swirling into unnatural shapes. Priests ran in every direction, their robes whipping in the wind. Tourists vanished as if swallowed by the air itself. The golden stones of Jerusalem turned black, and on the temple wall appeared a shadow vast, bestial, stretching across the city, though there was no light to cast it. The sight made Pablo's heart pound so loudly he could hear it echoing in the dream. What was it? A machine? A monument? A being? He wanted to ask, but before he could speak, Jesus turned his gaze toward the horizon. His expression grew heavy, infinite. You will know, he said. when the silence itself begins to hurt. When what is sacred is trampled, you will understand. Pablo stood frozen, unable to breathe. The air crackled with dread and revelation. This wasn't the fear of a child, it was something older, deeper. A recognition that something immense had begun to stir beneath the surface of the world. And in that moment, Pablo knew this vision wasn't about a distant future. It was close, imminent, like the tremor that comes before a storm, the kind that rattles your bones before the lightning even flashes. The scene shifted suddenly, like a film spliced mid-frame. Jerusalem vanished. The trembling stopped. Pablo found himself standing in the middle of a desert. The land stretched endlessly in every direction, dry and fractured, a wasteland of silence and sun. The sky was white, not blue, glowing with a brilliance that hurt to look at. And there, far off in the distance, something moved. A figure, graceful, radiant, approaching through the heat. A woman, dressed in sunlight, the moon beneath her feet, a crown of 12 stars glimmering above her head. Pablo's heart leapt, not from fear this time, but awe. He didn't know who she was, but he felt her significance before Jesus even spoke. "She is Israel," said the voice beside him, steady and eternal. "She runs, not from fear, but toward her refuge, as you will one day do." The woman ran across the wilderness, her light never dimming. The earth cracked behind her, the heavens roared above, and still she moved forward, purposeful and calm. Jesus raised his hand and pointed to a narrow path, carved between two massive stones. It led downward, into darkness, a cave hidden beneath the desert floor. As Pablo followed the vision, he felt cool air brush against his face. The shadows no longer seemed threatening, but protective. "This is the place prepared," Jesus said softly. "For 1,260 days, here my people will be kept safe." A pulse of warmth filled Pablo's chest. A question rose in his heart, though he hadn't spoken. Jesus answered it anyway. "Which mountain will you run to, Pablo?" He asked gently. "Not all are called, but those who hear my voice will know." The words wrapped around him like a whisper, carried by the wind. And for a moment, everything went still. The desert, the light, even his heartbeat. Then, without warning, the vision shattered. Pablo awoke with tears streaming down his face. The room was dark again, his small chest rising and falling rapidly. But this time, he wasn't afraid. He felt altered, as if something inside him had shifted, as if the dream had left a mark that no waking moment could erase. He didn't understand everything he had seen, but one truth had rooted itself deep within him. What he had witnessed wasn't meant for him alone. It was meant for everyone, for those willing to listen, for those who still had ears to hear. So tell me, would you recognize the sign if it appeared before your eyes? Would you understand the warning if the sacred began to crumble in front of you? What if the abomination has already been planned, moving silently while the world sleeps? Listen carefully, because this story isn't finished, not yet. There are more dreams, more signs, more truths buried beneath centuries of silence. And Pablo's journey has only just begun. What if the only safe place left on Earth couldn't be found on any map? What if that refuge wasn't something you could choose, but something chosen for you, written into destiny long before your first breath? By the time Pablo dreamed again, he was no longer surprised. Something inside him expected it now. Something deep in his soul knew Jesus would return. And when the dream began, he did. Pablo opened his eyes inside the vision, as if stepping into a memory rather than a dream. The desert stretched before him again, but this time it wasn't still or distant. It was alive. The wind carried whispers of forgotten languages, sounds he couldn't recognize, but somehow understood. The stones seemed placed with intention, their shadows forming patterns too perfect to be random. Every grain of sand felt as though it had been arranged by unseen hands. This wasn't emptiness, it was design, a secret built into the bones of the earth itself. And then, through the shimmer of the heat, Jesus appeared beside him once more, dressed in radiant white, a wooden staff in his hand, his eyes calm but piercing. He smiled, said nothing at first, and began to walk. Pablo followed, his small feet crunching softly over the parched ground. The path they walked was narrow, winding between pale cliffs and quiet ravines. And yet there was no pain, no thirst. The desert was warm, yes, but gentle, like a place that existed outside suffering. It wasn't the desert of this world. It was another kind of land, one that pulsed with meaning. Jesus stopped near a great stone and turned to him. His voice was low, filled with a kind of power that felt older than time itself. "This is the place my Father prepared from the beginning," he said. "Before you were born, before Israel entered Egypt, this refuge was already in his heart. It isn't a hiding place. It's a sanctuary hidden from the eyes of the world." Pablo looked around. The terrain was harsh, yet strangely alive. From the ridge above, he could see shapes small tents, nestled among the cliffs, their canvas blending with the color of the rock. Were there people there, waiting, hoping? He thought he could hear faint voices carried by the wind, like distant prayers. Then, his gaze caught a flash of light on the hill ahead, a spring of clear water, gushing straight from the rock, flowing into narrow streams that disappeared beneath the ground. Jesus pointed to it and said, "Here I will feed my own. As I fed my people in the desert of Sinai. The world will hunger, but here manna will fall. The world will thirst, but here flows living water." The vision shifted, and Pablo saw it happen. Tables appeared, simple and wooden, covered with loaves that shimmered like frost made of light. Children laughed as they gathered the golden flakes that fell from the sky. Elders bowed their heads in gratitude, tears glistening in their eyes. There was no fear here, only peace. Every face seemed to carry the same quiet certainty. They had listened, and they had arrived in time. But then came the question, burning quietly in Pablo's chest. What about him? Would he find this place when the time came? Would he remember the way? Jesus turned to him, reading the thought before it was spoken. He placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, and when he spoke, his voice rolled through the air like a tide that calmed the storms of the heart. "This place is real, Pablo. Not a parable, not a vision of the mind. It is land and stone and water. It exists, but only those who hear my voice and do not hesitate will find it. When I call, you must run." They walked further, through a narrow canyon shaped by ages of wind. The air grew cooler, the shadows deeper. Ahead, a vast cave opened before them, its walls shimmering faintly with streaks of silver and crystal. Pablo felt no fear, only reverence. Jesus stepped inside, his footsteps echoing softly. "For 1,260 days, he said, this will be the home of those who flee the great desolation. 3.5 years, not a day more, not a day less. The time is already measured." A chill ran down Pablo's spine. It wasn't a prophecy, it was a countdown, a clock already ticking somewhere in the unseen. Outside, the dream sun was setting. The sky burned with crimson and gold, painting the cliffs with fire. Jesus spoke again as they walked. He told Pablo the stories of those who came before the prophet Elijah, hidden beside the brook Cherith, fed by ravens from heaven. David, hiding in the caves of Adullam, spared from the hands of his enemies. Each story carried the same rhythm. Before the glory came the wilderness. The desert, said Jesus, is not only a refuge, it is a forge. It is where the heart learns to depend on what the world cannot give. It is where the soul is purified. They paused near a ridge, where the horizon rose into a crown of mountains, sharp, jagged, and high. Jesus lifted his staff and bounded toward them. Do you see those mountains, Pablo? They are not decoration, they are defense. They separate what is sacred from what is doomed. No army will find this place easily, but you must know the path, for this desert is both seen and unseen. It exists in the world and beyond it. His words fell heavy, sacred, impossible. Pablo didn't understand it all, but something deeper than reason did. His spirit absorbed it. The message wasn't meant to be analyzed, it was meant to be remembered. For the day when remembering would mean survival. And in that moment, as the wind rose and the shadows grew long, Pablo sensed something vast stirring across the desert. A pulse, like the heartbeat of creation itself. The question came back, quiet but relentless. How many will know where to run when the hour comes? How many will hear the call before the storm breaks? And worse, what if the signs are already unfolding right now, while the world stays blind and dreaming? He opened his eyes just as Jesus turned toward him one last time. The light behind him blazed like dawn, and though his lips barely moved, the words carved themselves into Pablo's mind as if etched in stone. When you feel it, do not doubt. Run. I will be there. Have you ever felt there are places on this earth where evil simply cannot enter? Places older than time, hidden among mountains, guarded by invisible hands since the beginning of creation? That night, Pablo dreamed again. It was a moonless night, the kind of night when the silence itself feels alive. The wind brushed against the windows of his small home in San Marcos de la Sierra, rattling the glass, like fingers asking to be let in. The dogs had stopped barking. The world outside was still. Yet inside, Pablo's body lay sleeping beneath his blankets, motionless while his spirit was being called once more. The dream didn't startle him this time. He was waiting for it, expecting it. The dream began with a map, not an ordinary one. It was ancient, drawn on worn parchment spread across a stone table. No modern borders, no familiar names. Its ink was faded, its symbols strange and forgotten. Jesus stood on the opposite side of the table, his finger resting on 3 words, written in an ancient script: Edom, Moab, Ammon. The names sent a chill through Pablo, though he didn't know why. Then the map began to move. The lines wavered like serpents, rivers shifted, mountains rose slowly alive. Ink turned into landscape. The parchment became earth. Jesus' voice broke through the silence, firm and solemn. The whole world will be handed over to the destroyer. But these 3 ancient lines, these will escape his grasp. Here, Pablo, I will protect me people. In an instant, Pablo was drawn into the vision. The world around him rippled, and he stood within it, no longer looking at a map, but standing on it. The first land he saw was red, carved by canyons that looked like blades pushing up from the soil. The second was a vast valley, surrounded by mountains like walls of stone. The third was a narrow gorge, twisting and deep, leading into a hidden fortress of rock. Then, the name formed clearly in his mind: Petra, the lost city, carved into cliffs of rose and fire. A place unreachable by modern armies, preserved by time and secrecy. Jesus pointed toward a shadowed entrance among the red walls and said, "From Selah in the wilderness, I will hide my people from the destroyer. He will not enter here. He will not be allowed." A surge of emotion swelled in Pablo's chest. Part fear, part awe, part hope. The vast caverns of Petra unfolded before his eyes. Some were enormous, large enough to shelter entire cities. Others were small and hidden, carved deep into the rock, like secrets waiting for those who walked by faith, not by sight. He saw figures entering quietly, families, the elderly, the young without maps or guides. No noise, no panic, only certainty. Each face glowed with the same knowing. They had arrived where they were meant to be. Jesus turned to Pablo, his gaze filled with light. This place has been waiting since the days of the prophets. Daniel saw it. Isaiah spoke of it. I have reserved it. And then Pablo heard something. A voice that wasn't Jesus older, like the sound of the earth itself whispering. It came from the stones. Do not give Selah to the enemy. It will be a refuge. It will stand as testimony. The words echoed through him, like thunder trapped inside a cavern. Suddenly, a question pierced his mind. What if I must flee here too? How will I find the way? How will I know when to go? But before the fear could take hold, Jesus spoke gently, his voice like a calm over the storm. You will not go alone, Pablo. None of my people will. My hand will guide each one when the hour comes. The dream shifted again. The ground vanished from beneath him, and he felt himself falling, but not in fear. It was like being lifted by the wind. The sky opened wide above him, and to his astonishment, wings unfurled from his back, massive, golden, strong. He was no longer bound by gravity. Jesus soared beside him effortlessly, his robes glowing like sunlight on water. Together they flew over mountain ranges, deserts, and oceans. Pablo didn't feel heat or cold, only the strange purity of freedom. I will carry you supernaturally, Pablo, said Jesus. Do not walk alone. It defied reason, but in the dream, reason didn't matter. Truth did. And the truth was that he was being borne by a force greater than himself. As they flew, Pablo saw something moving ahead, columns of cloud and fire drifting across the horizon. During the day, they were clouds of silver mist. By night, pillars of flame that burned without smoke. They moved steadily forward, leading the way without a sound. He remembered the old stories, Moses, the Exodus, and realized this was the same guidance, the same presence. Below them, he saw people walking across the desert in silence. Men, women, children, each step steady, unbroken. Their sandals never wore out. Their strength never faded. It was as though time itself bent around them. Jesus spoke again, his words resonating like the heartbeat of the sky. So, I will keep those who listen to my voice, not only Israel, but all who believe. My wings are ready. The hour is drawing near. But then, something changed. A chill spread through the air. Pablo's wings trembled. Behind them, a vast darkness was rising, rolling like smoke, but alive, hunting. It wasn't a storm. It was pursuit. It was him, the enemy, the destroyer. The Antichrist's presence seeped into the dream, like poison in water. Pablo couldn't see his face, but he could feel him cold, intelligent, merciless, a shadow that fed on fear itself. The sky seemed to tighten. Will they all escape? The thought burst in Pablo's mind. Will they all be carried before it's too late? Jesus didn't answer with words. Instead, he showed him a scene sudden, violent, and magnificent. A woman running, the same one clothed in sunlight, with the moon under her feet. Behind her, the darkness surged closer. And then the earth split open beneath her, swallowing the shadow whole. The vision blazed before him, like lightning across eternity. Pablo understood. It was Revelation 12. It was the promise. I intervene, Jesus said softly. I protect. But they must believe. They must watch. When the vision faded, Pablo stood once more upon a hill, wings folded against his back, gazing down at Petra from afar. The sky burned gold, yet beneath the beauty, something heavy trembled in the air, the prelude to a storm. The war hadn't begun, but it was close. He could feel it in his bones, in his chest. The urgency of it, the certainty that time was slipping away like sand through his fingers. And as he looked toward the horizon, he knew not everyone would be ready when the call came. What would you do if you knew someone was searching for you not to find you, but to destroy you? And what if that someone wasn't human? What if it never slept, never stopped, and its hatred was older than every war the world has ever known? Pablo dreamed again. By now, he no longer woke in fear when it came. But he knew immediately this one was different. The dream didn't begin with a piece of divine whispers. It began with fury. The sky above him wasn't night. It was absence, color torn away, light devoured. And suspended in that void was a being so vast it swallowed the horizon. The dragon of Revelation. 7 heads, 10 horns, eyes that burned like collapsing stars. It didn't roar with sound, it roared with power. Each vibration of its fury made the heavens shatter like glass. Beneath it stood the woman clothed with the sun, the same figure Pablo had seen before. But now she wasn't running. She stood within the sacred desert, protected by a brilliance that the darkness couldn't touch. And then the dragon turned. Its rage shifted, no longer toward the woman, toward her children, toward those who keep the commandments of God and hold the testimony of Jesus. Jesus appeared beside Pablo not as the gentle shepherd, but as a king. His robe shimmered like woven fire, moving though no wind touched it. His eyes were both mercy and judgment, light and flame. When he spoke, his words didn't echo. They vibrated, as if reality itself responded to them. Pablo, he said quietly, the fury of the enemy will be unleashed, not only against Israel, against all who bear my name, against every witness of truth. Pablo felt the weight of it, not symbolic, but real, heavy as the pull of gravity. The vision of manna and crystal water, of hidden sanctuaries, now seemed like preparation for war. The dragon's hatred poured into the world like poison. Pablo saw flashes, cities in ruin, churches sealed, Bibles burned, believers hunted as outlaws. The air reeked of fear. But within the chaos, he saw movement, small groups, scattered yet guided, walking with unexplainable precision through deserts and ruins. They appeared where they were meant to be at the right time, the right place, without maps, without leaders. A voice led them, a whisper the world couldn't hear. Jesus said, "As I guided Philip to the chariot, as I sent Elijah to the brook, so will I move my people. Not by power, nor by might, but by my spirit." It was a logistics of miracles, an invisible exodus choreographed by heaven itself. And suddenly Pablo understood something crucial. The enemy's rage was not random. It was strategic. The dragon didn't waste fury on empty churches or hollow faith. He hunted those who could still hear the shepherd's voice. The faithful were not running from the world, they were being gathered for something greater. And even as the dream filled with dread, Pablo felt a strange certainty. This war had already been written. Jesus led him deeper into the desert. There was no city there, no sign of civilization, only vast emptiness and miracles. Pablo watched flakes of light fall from the sky, soft as snow, yet glowing faintly. He reached out, and they melted into bread, manna. It lay upon the rocks like dusted gold, unburned by the sun. People gathered it gently, never hoarding, never lacking. Nearby, an old man struck a stone with a staff, and water gushed forth like veins of glass. Jesus smiled, his expression both proud and sorrowful. "You fear for their survival?" he asked. "Watch. Their clothes will not wear out. Their shoes will not break. They will not wither. This desert will not be their punishment. It will be their sanctuary." But then the earth trembled. A low rumble built beneath their feet, deep and ancient. The dragon reappeared, rising over the mountains, and from its mouth poured a river massive, violent, alive. It rushed toward the sanctuary, devouring sand and stone alike. Yet the water was more than water. Pablo felt its meaning: persecution, propaganda, surveillance, hatred. A flood of control. Humanity itself was drowning in it. Inside the desert refuge, the people didn't move. They simply looked upward, their faces calm, unbroken by fear. Pablo thought they were doomed. But then Jesus raised his hand. The earth obeyed. "As I swallowed the enemies of Moses," he said, "so will I swallow this." And the ground opened, a slow, deliberate breath of the planet itself, and devoured the river whole. The torrent vanished. No water, no noise, only dust and peace. For a moment, silence covered everything, vast and holy. Pablo's heart slowed, but Jesus' gaze remained sharp. "It isn't over," he said. "But understand this. This is the safest place on earth, not because evil cannot find it, but because my presence fills it. Here, heaven and earth meet. Angels walk unseen. Every stone, every grain of sand was placed by design." Pablo swallowed hard. "And how many will make it here, Lord?" he asked. The question trembled in his voice. Jesus turned toward the horizon, where twilight bled into fire. His answer came softly, like a truth too heavy for the air. "Only those who do not love their lives more than me." The scene shifted again. Pablo stood amid a vast encampment, a city made not of buildings, but of tents. Thousands of them stretched across the valley, like stars fallen to the ground. Each tent glowed faintly from within, not with electricity, with light. The people inside were not desperate. They were prepared. Families prayed. Children sang. Elders told stories beneath the eternal dusk. It wasn't a camp of fear, it was a kingdom in waiting. Pablo felt tears burning his eyes. This wasn't a retreat from the world. This was God's army, learning to live in dependence, purity, and strength. Before he woke, Jesus knelt before him once more, his voice tender but edged with urgency. "Pablo," he said, "tell those who hear this story not to fear. The desert is not punishment, it is preparation. It is protection. It is a miracle waiting to be inhabited. What if one day you couldn't buy a loaf of bread without surrendering your soul? What if survival no longer depended on money, but on loyalty to a lie?" That night, Pablo couldn't sleep. The rain hammered the roof of his grandparents' house in San Marcos de la Sierra. But there was something else in the air, something electric, invisible, heavy. It felt as if the storm had brought more than water, as if it had carried a presence. By 3 a.m., a time he would later remember with dread, his eyes closed. And once again the dream took him. But this time, it wasn't the familiar desert that awaited him. There was no sunlight, no sand, no horizon, only darkness. And in that darkness, screens, thousands of them, suspended in the air, flickering like stars of artificial light. Every screen showed the same face. A man charming, confident, immediately dressed. His smile could have calmed nations. His words were soft, almost tender. But behind that calm, something ancient stirred. Jesus appeared beside Pablo, silent at first, allowing him to watch. The people on the screens applauded the man's every word. They cheered, they wept, they bowed. But their eyes were hollow. They weren't listening, they were hypnotized. Peace, the man whispered. Unity, progress. His tone was gentle, almost holy. But beneath each word pulsed deceit, a rhythm that made even the air tremble. And then the screens shifted, all showing a single symbol, a mark. It glowed faintly on foreheads and hands. For your safety, the man said. For your convenience. For your future. Pablo's heart sank. He didn't need an explanation. Somehow he knew. This was no political reform. This was prophecy unfolding the mark of allegiance that Daniel and John had warned of. The boy's throat tightened. He wanted to speak, but Jesus placed a hand on his shoulder and said, voice grave as thunder, Pablo, do not take it, never. Whoever accepts this mark drinks the wine of wrath without mixture. And suddenly the dream changed tempo. Pablo saw cities under surveillance, markets, schools, hospitals, all governed by scanners that no longer read cash or cards, but flesh. Foreheads, hands. Those without the mark were denied, turned away, shunned. Some were mocked, others beaten. Cameras lined every street. Drones watched from above. A false calm blanketed the world, a peace built on fear. From one of the floating screens, the prophet's voice slithered through the air. Without the mark, you do not exist. Jesus led Pablo into a pristine white office where people stood in line. One by one, they stepped forward and left with the glowing seal burned into their skin. Their smiles looked real, but their eyes were dead. Something inside them had gone out. Pablo felt sick. The mark was not a simple symbol. It was a covenant, an invisible exchange of the soul. The false prophet had sold humanity its own cage, and they thanked him for it. Many will take it out of fear, Jesus said softly. Others out of ignorance. But you, Pablo, you must warn them. The only escape will be to run. Run to the wilderness. And in that instant, light burst through the blackness. The desert appeared again pure, sacred, alive. Its silence was not empty but holy. Gone were the screens, the slogans, the noise. The wind whispered peace. Here, Jesus said, I will meet my people. Here, I will strip away their idols and teach them to live again. Between the rocks, Pablo saw a small group of men and women. Their clothes were torn. Their hands were dirty. But their faces shone. They had no mark, no wealth, yet they carried something the rest of the world had lost: freedom. Their eyes burned with life, with faith unbought. This is Hosea chapter 2. Jesus told him, Here I will allure them. Here I will speak tenderly to their hearts. Here they will learn what love is without lies. Pablo realized then, the desert wasn't only refuge, it was furnace, a place where the faithful were purified like gold. But even as he watched, the world outside began to collapse. Towers of glass and data crumbled like sand. Networks went silent. The false prophet's smile flickered and glitched. People panicked. Those who had taken the mark screamed as systems failed. They were bound, slaves without visible chains. Others turned savage, attacking anyone without the mark, calling them traitors, extremists, enemies of peace. It was chaos masquerading as order. Jesus watched, grief shadowing his face. They will be hunted, he said, labeled as radicals, enemies of humanity. But I call them mine. A single question formed in Pablo's trembling heart. Will I die for you or live for you? Jesus turned, his expression both fierce and kind. Both are victory, he said. The one who lives to testify and the one who dies without denying my name, they are one and the same. The words struck through Pablo's chest like fire. For the first time, fear and faith fused within him. indistinguishable. He no longer wanted escape. He wanted endurance. He wanted truth, no matter the cost. Then the vision split before him two paths, one wide, gleaming with light and technology, surrounded by towers that hummed with false comfort. The other narrow, rough, winding through dust, yet covered by a single cloud, glowing with divine fire, the same cloud that led Israel through the wilderness. "Which path will you take, Pablo?" Jesus asked. The boy didn't answer. He simply looked at the cloud, took a breath, and stepped forward. And just before waking, he heard one final whisper, soft, urgent, unforgettable. "The time to choose is near. May it not find you asleep." Have you ever felt that your steps were written long before you took them? That somewhere, beyond time itself, a path was carved in fire, waiting only for you to walk it? That night, October lay still as glass, not a breath of wind. The walls of Pablo's room seemed to stretch taller, the ceiling farther away, until it felt as though his bed were suspended in an infinite void. When sleep finally claimed him, it didn't begin with thunder or light. It began with silence, a silence so deep it hummed. Out of that stillness, an ancient book appeared before him, floating in midair. Its cover shimmered with dust, like powdered gold. Then unseen fingers opened it, and the pages turned themselves one after another, until they stopped precisely on a single line. Jesus appeared beside him, his face grave, his presence vast. "Pablo," he said, "now you will see the plan step by step. For it is not enough to dream. You must act." The book ignited not in destruction, no, but transformation. It became a living map, drawn in lines of fire. The flames traced glowing pathways across a terrain that pulsed like a heartbeat. Words flared at the edges of the map. Matthew 24, Revelation 18, Hebrews 10, Matthew 36, Revelation 2. Each one glowed brighter than the last, like coordinates on a divine blueprint. Jesus pointed to the first. "When you see the abomination standing in the holy place, run. Don't take your clothes. Don't take your food. Whoever trusts his luggage will not see my miracle." Pablo understood. Flight was not fear, it was obedience. Like Noah, who built the ark before he'd ever seen rain. Like the believers of Jerusalem, who escaped before the siege, led by an invisible command. The next step blazed in crimson fire. "Come out of her, my people." Instantly the vision shifted. A city unfolded before him, modern, brilliant, loud. Neon lights flickered over towers of glass and greed. Everywhere, people worshipped comfort, status, and self. It was the new Babylon gilded sin in digital disguise. "You must not only flee physically," Jesus said, his eyes burning with sorrow. "You must flee spiritually. Do not depend on the system, for those who cling to it will fall with it." Pablo's stomach tightened. How can one live outside the world, he thought. But the fire map pulsed again, urging him forward, answering doubt with light. The third step appeared in a flame shaped like a heart. "Do not forsake you meeting together." Pablo saw small groups scattered through deserts and forests. They had no temples, no stages, no microphones, only tents, stones, and open skies. Yet there, the presence of God was tangible. Their prayers carried warmth that could melt fear. Their songs rose without rhythm or instrument, yet heaven answered them with thunderous peace. Jesus whispered, "A fire that burns alone dies, but flames joined together create light that darkness cannot quench. Where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there I am." Pablo's chest filled with a radiant heat, not terror, but conviction. The wilderness would not be loneliness, it would be family. Then the fourth step ignited in blue flame. Do not worry about what you will eat. Pablo saw open hands receiving bread that fell like dew, water bursting from stones, angels serving unseen. The desert camps shimmered like beacons in the night, poor in wealth, rich in wonder. Jesus smiled, the sorrow fading briefly from his face. The birds do not sow or reap, yet your Father feeds them. How much more valuable are you? The words echoed like a promise carved into eternity. Pablo felt his fear dissolve. Trusting God, he realized, wasn't closing one's eyes, it was opening them to the impossible. The fifth step emerged as a sword forged in light. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. Instantly the air grew heavy. Pablo saw betrayal, persecution, blood. But he also saw courage faces of men and women, young and old, unflinching before the threat of death. Their pain became glory. Their tears, diamonds. In their eyes burned eternity itself. This is not an age of comfort, Jesus said solemnly. It is an age of definition. There are only two roads now, the path of the Lamb or the path of the beast. Pablo felt those words carved through him like lightning. The great division was no longer distant. It was happening now. Humanity itself was being sifted like wheat. The map began to contract, all its fire folding inward, until it formed a single red point hidden among mountains. Petra, the city of rock, the ancient refuge. Flames coiled around the name as Jesus spoke. Here I will guard my people, as I promised through Isaiah and Daniel. From here, they will await my return. Pablo saw millions moving toward it, guided not by maps, but by spirit. Yet the path was narrow, perilous, full of unseen trials. His voice trembled as he asked, "What if I don't make it?" Jesus looked at him with power and tenderness intertwined. "You will not reach it by strength," he said. "You will reach it by my faithfulness." The fire erupted, no longer a map, but a storm of vision. Pablo saw the world split in two. Multitudes bowed before the false prophet, marked and blinded. Others, small, scattered, radiant, hid in deserts and mountains, their worship rising like incense from secret places. He saw mothers shielding children, young believers refusing to bend, men sharing their last bread with strangers. And high above, heaven opened. A white horse descended. Its rider shone brighter than the sun. Not the Lamb now, but the King. His eyes blazed with fire. His voice was a sword that tore lies apart. Angels followed in rankless armies, their light devouring the dark. Pablo trembled. This was it, the war that had been whispered since Eden. Armageddon was no myth. It was unfolding. The armies of the beast gathered with their machines and weapons, confident in numbers, blind to their doom. Yet before the King of Kings, they looked like dust before a hurricane. Jesus turned to Pablo and said, "Every trial, every tear, every step through the desert was preparation for this moment. For the one who has suffered with me will reign with me." And then Pablo understood. The wilderness was not the end. It was the threshold. The flight was not defeat. It was obedience forged into destiny. The narrow path was not a curse. It was the doorway into the true kingdom. Subscribe now, because these visions are revealing what the world is desperate to forget. Like this video if you feel this isn't just a story but a calling. Because in the next part, Pablo will see the beginning of the end, when the deceiver reveals his final face. Would you like me to continue with part 8? Have you ever felt the world holding its breath just before something breaks? Pablo did. The night after his last dream, the air itself seemed wrong. The moon hung lower than usual, a pale, dying eye in the sky. The silence of San Marcos de la Sierra was too perfect, too heavy, as if the earth were listening for something. When the clock struck 3:03, His chest tightened. The same hour as before. He closed his eyes, and the dream seized him instantly. But this time, there was no desert, no book, no fire. There was only a city, glowing like gold under false sunlight. At first glance, it looked like paradise. Towers of glass reached the clouds. Streets gleamed as if made of crystal. Music echoed everywhere, soft, hypnotic, perfect. But the perfection was poison. The people moved like dancers in a silent choreography, smiling in unison, their eyes dim and synchronized. In the center of the city stood a temple, enormous and breathtaking. Its gates shone brighter than the sun. Over it, a holographic symbol blazed in the sky, the same mark Pablo had seen before. The same symbol that controlled buying and selling. But now, it wasn't just commerce, it was worship. Then he saw him, the man from the screens. The false prophet stood upon a balcony, robed in light. His voice echoed through the city, calm and magnetic. Humanity is finally united, he declared. No more divisions, no more faiths. One system, one truth, one God. And then he smiled and pointed toward the horizon. A figure was approaching, cloaked in black radiance, as though night itself had taken human form. The crowd fell to its knees. Pablo's heart froze. He knew without being told who it was. The deceiver, the Antichrist, the man of peace whose breath carried death. Jesus appeared beside him, but his expression was no longer sorrowful. It was resolute. "This," he said quietly, "is the unveiling, the mask removed. The beast has entered his temple. The time of deception is over. Now comes domination." Pablo trembled as the figure stepped forward, raising his hands. The air thickened, the lights dimmed. Then, impossibly, the statue behind him moved. It turned its head. It blinked. It lived. The image of the beast had been given breath. Every screen, every device, every billboard came alive with its face. And a voice, both mechanical and demonic, filled the world. "Worship him, or be erased." The people obeyed instantly, some out of devotion, others out of terror. Pablo watched as families bowed. Children lifted their hands, and even those who once resisted fell under a strange power. The sound of worship was deafening, but beneath it, another sound began to rise. A low, trembling roar. It came from beneath the city. The ground itself was groaning. The false peace was cracking. "Listen," said Jesus, "creation itself is rejecting the lie." Suddenly, the golden sky darkened, splitting with veins of red lightning. The towers began to tremble, and through the chaos, Pablo saw something: shadows moving beneath the earth, rising like smoke. They were not human. They poured out from the cracks in the ground, shapes with wings of iron and faces like nightmares. Their eyes burned with hatred older than time. "The abyss has opened," Jesus said solemnly. "The fifth trumpet has sounded." The demonic swarm ascended, filling the sky with the sound of 1,000,000,000 wasps. They didn't touch those sealed by God, but the rest screamed in agony, clawing at their own skin. The golden city became a furnace of torment. Pablo's mind reeled. He wanted to look away, but he couldn't. "You must see," said the Lord. "You must tell them what's coming." Then the vision shifted again. Pablo was standing on a mountain, overlooking the chaos. Below him, the world burned. Rivers boiled, cities fell. But above it all, the black figure still stood, untouched. His voice thundered across the nations. "Who is like the beast? Who can stand against us?" And then he looked up straight at Pablo. Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, Pablo felt time stop. His soul froze. The deceiver smiled. "You," he whispered, "even in dreams you watch me. But soon you will see me." The words pierced like knives, echoing inside Pablo's skull. He fell to his knees, gasping. Jesus placed a hand on his shoulder, and the darkness retreated. "Fear not," he said. "His power is an illusion, bound to time. I have already overcome." But the vision didn't end. The mountain trembled again, and Pablo saw another scene unfold, this one unlike anything before. The sky rolled back like a scroll. From the east, an army of light appeared, countless angels, moving in perfect formation, their armor like molten stars. Trumpets sounded, shaking heaven and earth alike. Jesus' eyes blazed. "It begins," he said. "The harvest of souls." Below, the world divided completely. The marked ones hid in terror, clinging to their idols, while the faithful raised their hands toward heaven, their faces glowing. It was no longer just a dream. It was prophecy unfolding in real time. Pablo turned to Jesus, his voice trembling. "When will this happen?" Jesus looked at him with infinite depth, the kind of gaze that saw both past and future in a single breath. "Soon," he whispered, "sooner than they think. But the day and hour are mine alone. Until then, warn them. Tell them to wake. Tell them to choose." The fire of heaven began to descend around them, bright as the dawn and terrible as judgment. The last thing Pablo saw was the face of the deceiver melting into 1,000 shadows, and the name of Jesus blazing like lightning across the heavens. And then, everything went silent. Not peace silence before detonation. The kind of silence that comes before the universe inhales one final time. The ground beneath him cracked open, not with fire this time, but with light. A voice thundered through creation itself. "It is time." Pablo awoke screaming, drenched in sweat, his heart racing. The house shook as if responding to the echo of that last word. On his nightstand, the Bible lay open though he hadn't touched it. The page read, Revelation 13. He stared at the verse until his breath steadied. Outside, the wind began to howl again, and deep inside, he knew the dreams were no longer warnings, they were countdowns. Subscribe now if you haven't yet, because the next part will take you beyond prophecy, into the moment when the sky itself breaks open. Like this video, if you feel something stirring inside you, because the story isn't fiction anymore,